Hey everyone, a quick warning before we start. The final chapter of Volume 5, Chapter 40, has implied themes of sexual violence, which we briefly discuss in the episode. If those themes or discussions will trigger or bother you, I would ask that you use the timestamps to skip past the discussion of that chapter specifically. Thanks for listening, and let's get to the volume. Welcome back to a Weekly Manga Podcast book club series where we deep dive and explore the weekly shonen magazine series GACHIAKUTA by Kei Urana. My name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel, and I am of course joined by my constant co-host Gautam.
What's up?
This week we are covering Volume 5 of the series, which is chapters 32 through 40. Let's start with just some quick thoughts on the volume. Usually I toss it over to Gautam, so I'm going to hop in here first. This is probably my least favorite volume so far. I don't think it was bad necessarily. I thought it had slightly more issues than the others. I would say that I like Amo. The fight, it's kind of weird because there was kind of no fight, but there was a little bit of a fight. I don't know. It felt strange because it was not a traditional fight, I think would be the way I would say it. I continue to enjoy the characterization, especially at the very end of the volume. I think one of the main reasons why this was a volume that was a bit more difficult to enjoy was that the very last chapter of it is a super big downer. But yeah.
It certainly was.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there, I guess. But I thought this one was good. It definitely feels like a little bit, not like I don't know what to call it. It's certainly not bad. This is like, if all the other volumes are 9s and 10s, this one is like, this is an 8. It's still good. I thought it was just maybe a little bit not quite as enjoyable as the other ones, but I do think that it continues to set up and reveal mysteries that I like. We are still progressing those kinds of things. So yeah, it definitely still had momentum and style, and I definitely did enjoy it, but maybe just slightly less than the others. Gautam, what about you? How did you feel about Volume 5?
Oh, I really liked it. I agree with you, honestly, in that it was probably the weaker of the 5 volumes we read so far, but like, I feel bad even saying that because it's like, if the rest were a 9, this would be like an 8.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a good time with it. I think the reason I liked it a little bit less is like the stakes felt lower. Mm-hmm. Generally, and we can get into why that is later. But this is like not to keep bringing it back to One Piece, but you know how like for the Straw Hats they all have their own individual arcs because they join as we go. Here we have a pre-established crew of characters already, and this fight, this 5 chapters felt like development for Talmsy and Delman, yeah. Which is the big guy and the Master Yi looking mask dude from earlier, like the cool looking guy.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a bit disjointed towards the end there, like you said. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Well, and one quick thing before we jump in, I agree that this volume is sort of about, Tamsy, who we see on the cover here, and Delman. And I think one of the reasons I liked it less is that we get less character work about them than they needed. Maybe they don't.
I think we get more later. I think this is kind of just establish their fighting style, and then we'll get their character stuff.
And it could just be as soon as next volume. It could be like, oh, okay, next volume. Made all my fears go away, and Volume 5 was fine. But
exactly. It's just like it's like a little tough because it's like you get like a little bit of Delman stuff. Mm-hmm. But I have to assume that that won't be the end of it, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of and there has been in the past too, there's a lot of sort of planted seeds foreshadowing of, Delman's backstory. In the last volume, we got stuff for Rio. We've gotten a little bit of stuff for Engine and all this stuff. So there's a lot of seeds being planted here. And I think this one maybe just there were no payoffs for any of those seeds. In the last volumes, we've had a little bit more revealing, maybe a little bit, but yeah, still a good volume, but maybe the weakest one so far. So let's take a look. This starting with chapter 32. So it starts the flashback because we ended last volume, of course, with Engine being sort of passed out, jumped by Amo I think we assume for some reason.
I don't know. We actually didn't get that flash forward in this volume, so
yeah,
we didn't get to it. I mean,
right, yeah. We'll this is Amo is leading the cleaners up to her tower, which looks very cool, very interesting. Visually, this is interesting. It also kind of begs a world building question, I guess you could say. Like,
it's a lighthouse.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a lighthouse. It also, I mean, everything around this is the sort of like turned to dust trash is kind of how they had described it in the last volume. So it's like a desert. And so why this sort of survives among all of that is interesting. And I don't, again, it's,
and I think it's cool. Like, it's like the implication is that there used to be an ocean here, in the past, in the distant past before civilization was ruined. But yeah, we don't get answers to that, of course, but it's cool world building, like you said. Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not sure if the series is going to fully lean into like, the secrets of the past world, if that's something we're really going to know about, or if it's just kind of a little bit of spice thrown in. I'm not quite sure yet.
I think we'll get some. I think we'll get stuff for that eventually. I don't know, just a hunch.
Yeah. So Amo, some of the group I think are already suspicious. I think it's Tamsi or Zonka or someone is like, she's like, I'm very suspicious. She's asking us to take off our masks and stuff.
Yeah. She mentions it's rude because Amo's crazy. She talks in the third person. Of course, like those cutesy anime characters that refer to themselves in the third person. But she's like, yeah, it's rude to wear your mask. So she makes them take it all off. So they're all suspicious, but suspicious in the, she's nuts kind of way. Not suspicious that she's a mastermind or something like that.
No, yeah, I think it's more of like, she might be leading us into a trap. I mean, they literally, the last major fight, they got led into a trap by, someone who they thought was in danger or a cute girl also. So, yeah. Her personality kind of starts to come through here. I think she's fun. I like her a lot. I also,
me too. She's great.
Yeah.
And she is nuts.
She's totally nuts.
Yeah.
And the last chapter starts to let us know why. I took a note here that like the room that she leads them into, it looks like a boss room to me from a video game.
I know it does, right? This is like where you fight Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower.
Yeah, it's like, she didn't lead them into like, this is my cute little room. It's like, she led them into a boss arena. And it's like, okay, if you as a reader are not suspicious by this point, like absolutely, she just led them into like a fight cage.
My note here is that did she make them take off their masks because her power works on her seeing faces? Maybe is my speculation at this point. Also, a quick correction: we did indeed get the flash forward. I didn't notice the ghosts in this room, but they're there.
Are they?
Yeah, in the corner over there, the back.
In this page we're looking at, or
right behind Amo, like above her.
The little hanging ghost things. These things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay. I didn't notice that either, but that's interesting. That's cool. That's a neat detail. But yeah, so she again is very crazy. They of course kind of come right out and say it. They're like, hey, we want to ask you, are you the person who has seen people go up through the barrier or come down? And she's she takes a crazy side. She's like, let's talk about boys and girls that we like. And I like something that I think the series is really good at, in the vein of, it's going to come up every volume. She reminds me of Okubo in the way that everything always has a little bit of fun goofiness to it. Like the face reactions here, I think are great from
I love it. Rudo, anytime he makes that reaction face, he reminds me of Black Star from Soul Eater.
Yeah.
yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah. So is this, I'm trying to think, are we on 33 yet? Yeah, so she keeps, I think we're in chapter 33 already.
Oh, real quick, I'll cover this part. It's like, because Engine is like, starts asking you for information. And she's like, you're just using me. You didn't want to talk about girls and boys at all. You're freaking using me. And Engine's like, and then she says like, I just wanted to see you is what you're supposed to say, even if you don't mean it. And then Engine tries to fix it by saying, I'm interested in you, with a thumbs up and like an insincere face.
Yeah, it's like,
and then she's like, don't lie to me, creep. Which is hilarious because she contradicts exactly what she said. Like, I just like, say it even if you don't mean it.
Also, it's like, it's impressive to me. I really think like facial expressions in comics and manga are something that are like undervalued. It's like a skill that is very, it's one of those things that can really elevate a series. And I don't know if I've ever seen someone draw the kind of face that Engine has here, where it's like, I'm trying to be nice and telling you a lie, but I know it's a lie and I'm not a very good liar. It's like, that is all communicated in his face here. Like, even without the line almost. And that's like, that's such a skill, like, that it's just awesome. Like, I love this face. I love the girls' reaction too. They're like, "Oh no!" Like,
I love that he has no game. Because you'd imagine someone as cool as Engine would be better at this.
His skills lie elsewhere.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, but she kind of keeps she keeps kind of flopping between being this like, "Oh, I'm a cute girl, talk to me about boys," and then like absolute like screaming insanity. And then
and her lines here are like hilarious, how she contradicts herself and how she's like, you're just using me, but that payoff is not as fun later.
Yeah. So we get the first reveal here of her boots, which I think we see maybe in the next we see pretty soon that these have the same symbol that is on Rudo's gloves and the sort of bad guy that we saw, I think, in last volume. She's also drawn, she's kind of the first character we get in the whole series that's a little, I guess, ecchi, I would say. She's drawn in a lewd way a couple of times in this volume, which is a little bit kind of new and different, but I think because it's the first time we've seen it, I don't mind it because it feels individual to Amo, which is kind of fine with me, like it's a character trait. So
it is individual to Amo, as we see later. There's like a reason for that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, she kind of snaps because they're being insincere. They don't want to hang out with Amo. They just want information. And she's unhinged, of course. Mm-hmm. So she just wants friends and companionship. Yeah.
So it's after this that we get kind of the start of the actual fight, I would guess, where Amo says, like, take care of him, my good sir. And we see Delman from behind Engine kind of gets his, we are soon to learn, like, garden hose spout out. And then we, get to skip back to the present. So yeah, that's actually all the first chapter. So there's kind of a lot in that big first chapter, but yeah. So next chapter 33, this is basically where we left off after chapter 31. I guess it was at the end of last volume. Engine's kind of passed out. Everyone is kind of looking up at Delman, who's like, oh my gosh, like our friend just attacked us. What does that mean? Zanka is kind of my favorite here for a bit.
Zanka is red pilled. He just starts negging her.
Yeah, but I was about to say he's absolutely not taken in by anything she's doing. He only has eyes for Engine's affirmations.
One thing to note is that Amo was like choosing who she thought was the hottest boy among the group, and she mentioned it was Delman because he smelled the best. Mm-hmm. Or smelled like her type. Anyway, this was just before he was mind controlled. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I gave away the plot, but it's kind of obvious.
I mean, we're assuming if you're watching this, you've probably read the volume with us. It is interesting too because we learned that he's kind of like a flower keeper, like grows things. So I can sort of, that kind of ties in together with like, oh, he smells better because he's like tending plants and the earth and stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah, that would make sense.
yeah, but you're right. But Zanka here is basically just like Miss Uggo. Like I'm wondering what the Japanese phrase is here and why they translate it like this. If these are just calling her like ugly girl or something. But
yeah, I like how Zanka has like a southern dialect in the localization. Yeah, like usually it's used for anyone from the countryside in manga. They use like the southern dialect like in any translation to represent that for us Westerners. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I like this localization. I was reading the unofficials when I started. So I like the officials. Zanka is pretty distinct.
Yeah, I think they're really good. I think it's a really good translation and localization. I think they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Almo again just kind of keeps flip-flopping between like, I'm scared, I'm yelling at you, and then she's like, why would you call me ugly? Like, I didn't do anything. It's like you hurt her feelings. Yeah, we get Delman here kind of being
a white knight. Yeah,
white knight.
She's the reason I fight. I will protect her. No cause could be greater. Yeah.
And we get Tamsi kind of coming into it too now, and I think we get here it is. The reveal of Delman's vital instrument, which is Thirst Quencher, which is literally
one thing to note right before this is that Tamsi mentions that Delman isn't mind controlled, or maybe this is right after, but he mentioned it's his own choice that he's fighting them. It's not mind control.
Yeah, they're like, no. He's choosing to do this. Yeah. Which is kind of it. The first couple chapters, you play with the mystery of like, what is Amo's power? Like, clearly she has a vital instrument in the boots, but this is maybe my favorite vital instrument so far, Thirst Quencher. I think it's so cool to have like, I don't know. It's just like growing up, my dad did a lot of like gardening and stuff. That was like one of his major hobbies. And so to see like the like garden hose spout thing turned into like a gun with different nozzles that's able to like, as we're about to see, like blast away walls and do stuff like that. Like, I think this is cool. And it's like,
his power's nightmarish. Like when it's used on people, or whatever. Like they have a description of it in a sec here, or in a bit where
I think it's next chapter or chapter after. But
okay, got it. We'll get to it then.
Yeah. Almo mentions here that like she has another fan, and it shows Rudo seeing these kind of ghost things. I didn't at first recognize them, but these are the
militia.
These are the like police from the Sphere, like from chapter 1. Like we saw them in chapter 1. These are the guys that broke into the house and thought that he killed his adoptive dad or whatever.
Right.
So we get a very horny lead page on chapter 34. A familiar fragrance. This chapter, this is where Rudo tells us these are the apostles. And this is a good callback. I think something that's been consistently good through the whole series is like Rudo's, like everything sort of tying Rudo back to what we saw in chapter 1 and in the couple of flashbacks he's gotten. He feels like a very fully realized, well thought out character. And I think this is another thing where it's like, oh yeah, like he, obviously hates these apostle guys, the police from the Sphere. He obviously has, some PTSD, some hatred for them. So like it is an obvious thing when we learn how Amo's power works for that to be how his sort of visions manifest.
Yeah, and to talk about just real quick, we'll just say it. It's she basically generates trauma hallucinations and makes herself like the target of protection, like whoever in your life you need to protect against these like perceived bad guys. She makes like Rudo's allies look like the bad guys and her look like the target of protection. Yeah. So it's trauma hallucinations. It's fucked up.
Yeah. So Delman talks here about like, again, man, he just has the coolest vital instrument so far.
Yeah. I love his design in general. Delman's sick.
Yeah, we saw him, like I think in volume 2 even, or like this guy looks really cool. And he shows up a couple times, and it kind of makes more sense now that like, oh, his design is sort of based on like a gardener, right? Like he has kind of the big, like the big straw hat, the water. He's kind of, he's like bare chested and very kind of dressed down. But yeah, Tamsi here says like, oh yeah, in his past, Delman had a strong desire to make his plants grow big and strong. I think this is where we get the description. Yeah, the description here I think is he basically like his vital instrument shoots water, and he will just fill you up with water until you explode with his vital instrument is what it tells us. And
Talmsy also implied that it's like, hey, don't fight Delman. None of us can take him.
Yeah.
In a 1v1, I think he probably has like one of the more destructive vital instruments.
Yeah, I do. We definitely see this here because Rio's kind of like, I think Rio approaches and is just like, all right, I don't care. Like, I'll take this guy down. Like, I can do it. And Zonka is like, this page I think is great. Like, Rio, eyes forward. And he's like adjusting water pressure high. And he just absolutely like knocks an entire side of the wall out here.
Rio is suspicious because Amo mentioned nobody can be trusted because of her smell no jutsu that she puts on them.
Yeah.
And as we keep going, we see that Delman's instrument, when used on a human, fills them up with water.
Yeah.
Until they pop like a balloon. Or at least on monsters, it works like that. And assumably anything that has organic matter just like pops like a balloon eventually.
Yeah, anything with like water in it, you can just add water to it. The weirder, scarier part is we're told that basically like that's what he did to Engine. He like filled it with water until he passed out or something, which is kind of weird, but it's like, okay, I buy it, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Rio's dodge here. Her dodging this attack from like the last page where she just like does like a Matrix thing and she's just like, that was close. Like that was so close.
It's like when in the movies when like a train is coming at you and you just like lie down on the tracks and let it go over you. That's exactly what she did here.
Yeah. I also like I can't stop praising the art enough, but the sort of like fisheye lens, like kind of angle we've got here where, her head is like drawn much bigger and then the kind of shrinking background here.
I love that.
It's just great. Yeah. I mean, it's just style that is cool and awesome. Let me see what else we got. So memories come from smells. We talk about that now. And that's why she had them take off their masks. I had a note about that where it's like, okay, she had them take off their masks because that gives her control over him. I really like this chapter. This might be my favorite chapter of the whole thing. Because this is kind of where shit hits the fan. Delman is attacking. I like Rio's dodge. I like that we get all the background stuff with Rudo and the sphere.
He's perceiving his allies as enemies, and now they're noticing that Rudo is brainwashed too. Quick thing about memories and smells. I like because I heard that before, right? Amo mentions that memories and smells are intertwined. The olfactory system has the only direct input into the memory centers of the brain, and therefore has much more impact on them than the other senses. Is what Google told me. About smell and memory. So yeah, Amo's right.
Yeah,
despite
smell
being
memories.
Crazy, she's right.
Yeah, smell memories are incredibly strong. Like if you, Mama's cooking is one of those things that kind of stirs everyone up.
Exactly, and this explains like my assumption that she needed to see faces. It's like she just needed the masks off earlier. Yeah,
I really like the visual storytelling. That's like part of my jam. I love that. Just a simple sort of 2-panel thing here where it's Talmsy and then it just kind of shows the exact same angle and presents him as one of these apostles, one of these cops. That's like you don't like other lesser skilled manga who couldn't do this visually might have had to have Rudo or Talmsy or someone say like, is Rudo seeing me as someone else? Does he think I'm not who I am? Or Rudo saying like, I thought that was Talmsy, but now I'm seeing an apostle, right? Like there's no line to communicate what this is. It's all done visually and it still works. And I think that takes skill. And I think that shows how good Urana like really is here.
I agree.
Yeah. At the end of this chapter, I think we get the kind of, we get the reveal that this girl whose name I forgot, that she's back in the next chapter. I think I wrote it down. Chiwa. This is the girl from chapter 1 who Ruto was obviously had a crush on in chapter 1. Kind of betrayed him by throwing away the toy at the end when he got shipped off. But
yeah, I think this, as we keep going, I think this says something about Ruto's character in that, yeah, I know this is a hallucination, but like he knows and is pissed that she threw the toy on the ground, but is willing to help her anyway. Despite this all being a hallucination, I think that just says something about, despite being betrayed by the girl, Ruto is willing to put his life on the line to help her and save her anyway. I think that's like a good character growth, and it kind of shows his true nature.
He's still a good guy. Yeah, he's got, as we'll see by the end of the volume, he's got some violent tendencies, but and some other issues. But yeah, I think obviously our main character is, at his core, mostly a good guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, chapter 35 here. We kind of get a Chiwa flashback stuff here. We get a cool view of Amo's boots here. Yeah, all Amo ever does is make smells. Show people good times. Yeah, this is where she like explains her power, I think. Where she's like, this makes me the object of their affection so that they will defend her. So yeah, she does this sort of like, again, this is another good panel where it's like showing that visually that the Chiwa that Ruto sees is just Amo saying, help me. So this is, Zonka and Tamsi kind of go into fight mode here. And I really...
With their masks on too.
Yeah.
Because they figure out her trick.
Yeah, they get their mask back on and kind of are like, all right, like Amo's the bad guy, because she like reveals what her secret is, and they're like, this. I like this because, again, it's good. It's just it's basic good writing in that she tells them how her power works, and immediately the good guys are like, okay, let's put our masks on to like counter her power. I have seen other series where someone like explains what their power is, and the good guys don't. It just doesn't change anything of like their strategy or whatever. It's so simple, but it's like, I've seen other series do this much worse. And so I enjoyed that it's like, immediately she goes like, oh yeah, my power works through smell. And they're like, okay, we're putting our mask back on, like immediately.
Right,
like, it's
right,
smart.
Exactly. Yeah, and basically Ruto double KOs them effectively.
Which is
like
a sick
perceiving
page.
them as enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a sick page here. This is where we go into a little bit more fight mode. I like Amo's like loving. She has weird eyes. She has like goat eyes. Have you ever seen a goat's eye that's like a rectangle?
Oh, she does. Yeah, you're right. She does have goat eyes.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means anything or if it's just a design thing. But either way, I think it's interesting.
I think it's just a design thing. But yeah, I think it's a design thing to show that she's a little crazy. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Again, just a nice camera angle here on Ruto. I don't know. It's again, just good stuff. But yeah, he's basically like, don't touch Chiwa. I will fight you. This is where Tamsi, I think, starts to be like, I will unleash my secret power now.
Yeah, forgive me, Master. I will go out.
I have to go all out. He says like, I never wanted to use my vital instrument on my friends, and he sighs. And he's like, looks like I have to. And we get the like zwam zwam zwam. And I think this is the last. I think this is the last page of the chapter. Because next chapter is chapter 36. Here we get the flashback with Delman. Yeah, and this is where we see that he has like. Or had, I would assume. And he even looks cool without his hat, I will say. Like,
yeah, he looks sick.
He's got a great
eyebrows.
Design. I mean, the design of everybody in this manga is fucking sick. Like, but yeah, Delman is a standout here for me.
The dude has the craziest fucking eyebrows I've seen in my life. It's sick.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that, but yeah, absolutely, he's got shit going on there. But yeah, so we see. Yeah, he had a woman who he obviously had affection for. It's heavily implied to me that she's gone now or dead in some way.
No, it's confirmed because he mentions it later.
I liked this part because this is like Amo talking about like the people that she's kind of controlling and confusing, and she's like, my gentleman friend, and Ruto was it? Girl, and she's like doesn't know the name of everyone, which I think is fucking hilarious.
I like especially the supporter guy from who's been along with us, and we also don't know his name, is also like, what is his name again? The supporter dude, the rookie supporter.
I think there's 3 supporters with us on this one. It's the 2 who were with the last quest, whose names I also don't remember. And this is a girl because she does some healing later on, and we see her with her hair down. And we saw her.
The healer one is different.
Okay.
That supporter is the guy from the first mission, who is like the rookie supporter that Ruto saves.
Yeah,
initially.
This guy on the right, right?
Yeah, that's the one that Ruto saves, and that's that character we liked. That one supporter.
Yeah, the guy he saved in the first one. Yeah, because there's only 3 supporters in this one.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's see, where were we? 36. So then we finally get Tamsi's vital instrument
which looks so
here.
fucking cool.
It's great. Every vital instrument is cool. Every design is great. Like I have no complaints about any of the visual stuff in GACHIAKUTA. It's like legitimately top tier.
Is my favorite one so far. I just think it's so cool looking, and I love its power.
Yeah. So it's called Tokushin, which he says is a distaff. I don't know what that means exactly, but this is essentially like a spool of string on the end of a staff. I think what it is it's like if you've ever like done sewing or knitting, there's essentially like a spindle that the thread can come off of, that like you put it on a thing that where it will just pull from it and spin and not like spin too much.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those. But yeah, he like sends out this awesome spider web and ties everyone up. Again, visuals on point. I think this is sick.
So one thing here is that I thought, like, when he's like, I'd never wanted to use this on my friend, I thought it would be like a destructive weapon. Yeah. It's like, bro, you should use this from the get-go.
I was about to say, this is it's very non-aggressive, doesn't hurt anyone if it doesn't have to. Like, not as scary as he let on, but I don't know. Maybe
it's just a rope trick. It's like a sick rope trick. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like, I never wanted to use my power. It's so dangerous. And it's ropes to tie up your friends so they don't hurt you or themselves. Like, that's like, exactly. Okay, buddy. I like this. He ends up tying up Amo also in the end of this. I also just like he gets them in this cool like spider web thing, and then he just like rounds them all up into this giant like barrel of thread.
And the rope like constricts more as they struggle, like kind of like the Predator net, if you've seen Predator.
Yeah.
But like, of course, it doesn't kill them or whatever. But yeah, it's very cool. And he, like you said, he ties them up in like a little bundle. Looks like a
rope basket, like a
rope basket. Exactly. That's the word.
Yeah. He also captures Amo in this. Again, she's, as you mentioned, she presents in a lot of these panels as a very ecchi character. So this panel is another one. So next chapter 37. Again, we just get the angles in this again. Camera angles, I think, are great. And he's like, go on, put everyone back to normal now. Apparently she mentioned something about how calling her Ugo was especially effective and kind of pissed her off. So Amo is like throwing a hissy fit and is like, we'll struggle. I'll force them to do it. And then Tamsi, this is maybe my favorite single like moment.
Yeah, this is the most creative part of the fight.
Yeah, for sure. He sort of like clacks his staff. The whole rope thing starts spinning, and he just sends them like crashing down. They're on the top floor, I believe, of this tower. He sends them crashing like all the way down to the bottom.
It's like a spinning top / drill. It just drills through every floor all the way to the bottom. Yeah.
And this whole sort of section is maybe my favorite. Ruto sort of gets like stabbed through the chest. You're like, and Amo's like, they're all gonna die because you're despicable. It's like, you don't know how to be friends with anyone.
And Zanka is chastising Tamsi as well. And he's like, wait, Zanka, don't tell me you forgot. And he's like, oh man, you totally forgot, didn't you? And I'm like, what's he talking about? And it's like, they can all take one fatal hit because of the spell we had drawn on us last volume. I forgot.
Shit.
So
I did too,
he was calling me out too.
I mean, because it's a battle shonen, I assumed I was like, oh, they might be hurt, but they're not going to kill the main character in this way. So like something's going to happen. But I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, they all had tattoos drawn. They'll all be fine.
Yeah, I forgot about the tattoos.
But yeah, really
author
good.
calling all of us out in Zanka.
Yeah, really good foreshadowing and payoff, in my opinion, for that. It's just a little. I mean, we liked that part in the last volume with Remlin and the sort of graffiti town, and they all did get that, the drawings drawn on them to keep them safe. And I think we're. I don't know if we're directly told that what she drew on them was like you can take one hit and survive, but it's told to us that is something that can be drawn. So it is all laid out for us to know this.
And with that said, the audience also puts together, including us, that, hey, didn't Engine have that on him as well when he got shot?
Yeah.
Which means Talmsy was on the level. He knew. Like, he knew Engine was just playing possum there.
Yeah, and this, I don't know. Engine is so cool. Like, a lot of series have this sort of, like, cool, mentor type character. Engine is like one of my favorites, if not my favorites of like almost any series I've ever read. I don't know. There's something about
it. He reminds me of Reagan from Mob Psycho a little bit.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of a scumbag,
Yeah, where he's sort of like, he's willing to be a little bit underhanded and shitty to sort of like win and be strong and powerful. And so, yeah, he like lets all of his fellow cleaners kind of get beat up and mind controlled as he just lays there. And then it's like, okay, now's my time. And he gets up for it. He's
some
sneaky.
Real trickster energy. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Real kind of Loki energy there. And so, yeah, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and confiscate this shoe. I think that is... Yeah, that's the end of 37. So this is chapter 38. Chapter 38 starts with us at Cleaner HQ watching Seimu and Corvus. Corvus is the sort of leader, president guy, asking Seimu, who has the glasses, who can see things, saying, when you first looked at Rudo, what did you see? Because this was volume 2, I want to say. We saw that she looked at Rudo and kind of there was like a black flash or some kind of scary thing. We aren't really told exactly what it is. And she's just kind of like, oh yes, your future looks fine. And here Simu says, implies that she knows something. I guess she doesn't give a response here. I thought that this was funny where they just like are teasing Amo about like, wait, you're not wearing any socks under those shoes? And it's like, and he's like smelling it, and Engine is like smelling it, and she's like, don't smell my shoes, you're the worst.
And he's like, why did I smell it after he smells it?
Oh crap, why I smell that? Am I gonna live?
It's one of those moments where you do something just as like a natural reaction that's like socially unacceptable, and you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah, it seemed like the right thing to do in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then let's see. Delman kind of gets real sad. Oh yeah, here you go. That's like, she didn't come back to life. I forgot about this part. Yeah. She created a scent to remind people of happy times with the one they love, and that scent made you and everybody else assume that she was the object of your affection. It was a real mess. This is, even though I feel like we didn't sort of get as much here as maybe I would have wanted for the other characters, Delman is the one who I think we sort of get like, okay.
We get a hint.
Yeah, we get that he had, this past love who encouraged his gardening and growth stuff, and she's dead, and he like obviously is affected and misses her. It seems to me like, as sort of wild and fun and crazy as this series can be, I think everybody has a tragic backstory in it. Like, I think it's going to be pretty downer when we get down to it, especially with the last chapter of this volume.
I think they do this job because they have a tragic, like, they have something to protect. And all 4 of the people have lost someone or something. So like they flash to Rio when she's controlled at a few moments too. I don't remember when, but she doesn't say much in this fight. So she has lost someone too. We just don't know who or what.
Yeah, well, and she mentioned a couple chapters ago like
about
something.
Parents.
Yeah, about her parents, about like they can be shitty or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but Yeah.
They impart good things and bad things on you.
There you go. Yeah, that was it.
I wonder if we get more on the supporter guy too, because he was like one of the 4. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I do like this Delman stuff, and I think it's well executed. Even if I like it's because it is well executed. I wish we had gotten more. I think is kind of where I am. So
we'll get more. I think.
Yeah. So Rudo here is kind of like still being a little crazy. I think it wants to,
even though the power should be off. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it wants you to think like, oh no, is he still actually, controlled? Nope, he is not controlled. Here we go. So we get this kind of nice intercutting between, Seimu at the Cleaners HQ and then the thing. And she's like, the gloves aren't the only thing that's different about him. There's something else. And Hamo's like, does that mean you're hooked on Amo's scent? No, it does not. Rudo proceeds to beat the absolute fuck out of it. Like, he, like, way too much. Like, that's too much for him.
The first punch was like, okay,
satisfying. Like, yeah, you deserve that one. And then he just keeps going, and it's like, okay, dude. And we get Seimu here being like, there is something inside him, and it's growing. I think she literally says it's like there's a darkness inside him.
And it's brutal when you go back to Amo's face, completely bloodied.
Yeah. It's pretty.
And you get like the kanji text of like pow whack in all dark black lines. So it's like it's fucked.
Yeah. Seimu, talks about darkness inside him, says that it's something that might destroy the world like a curse. This is kind of a twist, and I like this. We kind of know that there's a darkness, obviously like his past abuse and stuff. And in chapter like 3, I think it was, we do see him like go crazy. Like he bites a man's fingers off in chapter 3 and like almost kills all those guys who Engine kind of sold him off to as a joke and a test.
Rudo's a good kid, but he has rage. Like he has he has the capacity for like violence, like a lot of violence. And I think the author conveys it well.
Yeah, and for like destruction, which I think is a cool kind of contrast to his the sort of one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of version of his power, where he has this loving feeling for things that are discarded and thrown away. But I think because he has been often discarded and abused himself, he hasn't come to terms with that, and that makes him violent. Like that's kind of how I saw this.
Yeah, I think ultimately, if in a good environment, raised in a good environment, he would be like a protective, nurturing kid. Mm-hmm. But he's been abused his whole life, so
yeah. And he got thrown away by his dad, abused, for his scars, pain from his scars, like not had an easy life, and I think his good nature holding back this kind of violence is part of his character, and having the violence and darkness break through it's really interesting. Like I think this makes him more interesting by like a lot. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, I like it too.
So chapter 38. Here we go. Oh, no, this is like the end of chapter 38. I forgot this. It's like, to put it simply, it's something that might destroy the world, something like a curse. And okay. This
it looks like his arms, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You got right to it. I was going to say, this thing looks like the scars on his hands. I do wonder, I don't know. There's a long con going on with, I think, his dad and Rudo. Like, I think that's the connection that I'm making, is that his dad's the one who gave him the scars. I think we are told, right? And
yeah.
Or it's somehow related to that and his
dad. He said his dad gave him the scars. It's the last gift he left to him. Mm-hmm, it's like the only gift he left to him, or something like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, this to me seems like maybe it's his dad gave him like the power to, like destroy the sphere world or something. I don't know. I'm interested to find out though. Again, I really, I think the reveal and the twist of this is really interesting. So
yeah.
Chapter 39. I like that the title of this chapter is like, "What is right?" After we just saw like Rudo beat the shit out of a girl who, like, though she posed a threat, did not actually hurt any of his friends that much.
You maybe should be asking yourself that question, Rudo.
Yeah.
This is like one of my favorite lines. I really like it. She knocked us down and she laughed at us. Not what's on the outside. She laughed at what's inside of us. Which is just a very, I don't know, powerful line.
Yeah.
Somebody had to hit her. She deserves it.
Well, and it's indicative of sort of the way the fight played out, where it's not, like I kind of mentioned at the start, it's not really a traditional, action battle shonen fight. She's kind of manipulating, and she does kind of talk trash about people. But yeah, I do. I heard here that it's like, yeah, Rudo's like really emotional and they're kind of calming him down, but he's like, he's kind of right. Like she did, she did do that. She did probably deserve to get hit once.
And I think Rudo is taking it to an extreme. Well, obviously he is, but she laughed at what's inside of us. I think Rudo sees it that she intentionally created these hallucinations specifically for them, when in actuality, Amma probably doesn't know what they're hallucinating about. She's just
Yeah, and I think it also just goes to show Rudo's kind of like value of internal value of things over like it relates to his love of trash, right? Where something might look like trash on the outside but still has value to Rudo, and that's I think the same with people.
Yeah.
Obviously that's kind of
that's a good point. Yes,
big theme of the story is a person can be brutal and be beaten and scarred or messed up on the outside or present themselves in some kind of messed up way, but they still have value inside. And I think that Rudo, I think something about what Amo did by messing with their quote unquote insides, Rudo like really didn't like that, obviously. So
like she put them in the midst of their worst moments, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Rudo is understandably kind of in a agitated state right now.
Yeah.
And then Engine says, well, what about the information we were trying to get from her? And then Rudo makes the classic, oh, fuck, I fucked up face.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Again, facial expressions, very, very good in this series. Communicate a lot. No lines on this page, but a lot communicated, which I like. I
love this next moment, though.
Yes, this is one of my other favorite moments, where it's just sort of Rudo and Engine having kind of like a sit down outside, a heart to heart.
And he's like, well, why aren't you saying anything? And Engine's like, well, you kind of already know what I'm going to say, right? You went too far, you lost it, and you forgot about the information we were here for. But you know that, so I'm not going to lecture you.
Yeah.
And Rudo has like a great moment of introspection where he's like, I thought I was better than that. I shouldn't have done that. Like I thought I'd grown up, but I'm just a snotty little kid. I don't know. All good stuff. I'm glad that there wasn't like a long back and forth about this, because Rudo is like inherently self-aware.
Yeah. He's self-aware enough to not be a frustrating character who's like, why don't you realize what the reader is realizing? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like this moment. Again, I think as a sort of character, the weird thing is it's not really it is kind of a character growth moment, I guess. It's more interesting because it's Rudo realizing that I have not grown as a character, but I am realizing that, and that is kind of character growth in its own way. But again, like it's more interesting. But yeah,
Engine says it best himself, where he's like, self-awareness is half the battle, and the fact that you understand you have these flaws is big.
Yeah. I like this again. Engine, I like him being. He's just a little shitty all the time. They're like having a heart to heart, and he's just like, personally, he's like, I like hot chicks. He talks about like, it just talks about the kind of girls he likes, and he's like, what does this have to do with anything? But yeah, this page right here, I think, is the one that we're talking about that I think is really good. It also reveals a little bit more to us about Engine, who's been a mostly mysterious character so far, doing his own thing and being places where he maybe shouldn't be or has no right to be. But yeah, he just says like grown-ups have areas where they need to grow up also. Like you think you're just some shitty kid who hasn't grown up, but like grown-ups are the same. We have issues too. He says, a long time ago, I needed someone to help me recognize my flaws. You managed to figure yours out on your own. So what I'm saying is like we have nothing but areas for improvement. Like I think this is different from your normal action battle shonen like pep talk of you went too far, but you've recognized it, like good job kid, you're growing up, you're doing it right. Engine's more just like, yeah, like we all fuck up, we all mess up. Like I had to have somebody tell me when I was messing up earlier and when I had flaws, and you recognized it on your own, and that's like there's value in that. So
yeah,
I don't know, it's really mature.
And for what it's worth, he's like absolutely right. A kid Rudo's age understanding all this like by himself is like just incredible self-awareness for someone that age.
Yeah. I wrote, we are all trash trying to be better, as maybe a theme, which is like, there is value inside the trash people. That's just sort of like the theme of GACHIAKUTA, I think, that I'm seeing so far.
For sure.
A long time ago, I had someone help me realize my faults. I put more engine foreshadowing. I'm like, maybe I said, you know what? Maybe this is Rudo's dad. Maybe it all connects back. Maybe Engine is in on it. He clearly has his own kind of things. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think it's Rudo's dad, but he is giving off serious, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed dad energy in that lecture. Yeah.
But also a sort of like, I was the same as you back then, or whatever, back at a time where I needed someone's help. I'm really curious to get to Engine's backstory stuff to see. It feels like it's going to be very plot relevant, in my opinion. What he's been doing, why he is kind of his own separate person, and like what his history is. So
we like Engine, we don't know Engine. He's hiding stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's hiding. Yeah.
So end of this chapter, we kind of get the healer supporter and everybody talking to Amo, and we get the reveal that Amo, I was under the impression Amo is not the girl they were looking for, right? That it was like, we found the wrong person, but no, like Amo saw an angel crossing between the heavenly sphere and the ground on Earth, and they're like, wait, what did you just say? Like, and so that's so like this is I think this was my favorite chapter 39.
It was pretty good.
I just like the emotional stuff. I think it's good. The reveal kind of at the end of the chapter before was where there's the darkness inside Rudo, I think is cool. But yeah, I really, really like this one. So to talk about the very last chapter, Rising Abyss, as we mentioned at the start, this volume, like if the volume had ended at last chapter, would have felt very complete and very whole. It instead ends with this chapter, which is like the first half of Amo's backstory, and it is a fucking downer. Like
it is like so incredibly bleak.
Yeah, like the bleakest thing we've seen in this series by like a mile. Like Amo is essentially sold off by her mother as like a child sex slave. I think it's very much implied to this like old guy who takes her to the tower.
Before that, basically she sees a pretty bird. Her mom's like, that bird will never love you. So, and then Amo hates it, man. Screw you, bird. But it's like, it's a little funny, this part, but it's like also shows how neglected she was and how her mother never gave her any love.
Yeah.
And she sold off Amo, like you said, to this pedophile, stating that isn't it wonderful? This man will love you forever and ever. You're such a lucky girl. I'm so happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And Amo, so desperate for love, sees this as like an amazing moment. She's like 5, right?
Young, yeah. I don't know. It doesn't say exactly, but too young.
Yeah.
I do like the we get like
the drawings.
There's these sort of pages where she's happy at the time and she kind of makes these very childish drawings. It is a good storytelling tool that is used. It makes it even sadder and more bleak.
It's darker.
It is even darker because there is the childishness to it that is impossible to ignore.
So basically, she gets sold and gets moved into the lighthouse where this pedophile guy is a trafficker, but he's so creepy. He's hated by all the other traffickers as well.
Yeah.
And also drawn very creepy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no redemption for this guy.
Yeah. So yeah, he takes Amo to the lighthouse, and sexually assaults her.
Yeah, I mean, there's
actually we should put like a warning before this recording.
Yeah, I'll maybe record.
But anyway, sexually assaults her, and the chapter ends with this creepy dude with a mask entering the lighthouse, saying "Sorry to intrude."
Yeah.
This dude is the guy from the beginning.
Yes, you pointed this out and I had forgotten. I made a note here that I was like, I think we've seen this guy, but I don't remember where. This guy is in chapter 1. Is it the start of chapter 1 somewhere?
He's the guy stealing the Necronomicon. Yeah, exactly. Same guy.
This guy,
and he's at Rudo's execution. He is
the
chapter. This is the end of the volume. The volume ends here, so we don't know more yet.
Yeah,
but presumably this guy is also the angel Amo was referencing, because he was on the sphere. So it would make sense that he can clearly ascend and descend.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I mean that's an obvious. I mean the timing might line up too, right? This is, to not only has this dude who has Amo in his tower sexually assaulted her, he sexually assaulted her for years, because in this panel, she's grown up, right? She's like the age that we see her currently. So, we see her like as a child, and then it kind of like skips to her, obviously kind of being stuck in this tower like this. So,
and this is also why she's dressed so scantily clad.
Yeah.
It's because she's been abused for years,
Yeah, not really her choice. So, yeah, super dark stuff. But yeah, this is, I mean, the mask guy at the end is really interesting. I'm glad you pointed out that it's the guy from the start. Bummer end of the volume.
It's
a weird place to end to. Like I could not help myself. I was like, I have to go forward and read one more chapter because I cannot end feeling the way that this last chapter made me feel. And so I read one more, and it's like, ending a chapter before this or after this, from a storytelling point of view, right, would have been better. But understandable, right? Volumes are it's just a collection of chapters.
It's just like, it's kind of weird because each volume so far has been like kind of, it felt contained, like in like a logical sense, except for this one, which ends in, I don't know, maybe like the worst spot.
Yeah, I think this is legitimately like, I think it gives the volume a hit down, like a big one. It legitimately ends at like the wrong place. Like I think you end the chapter before this or the chapter after this if you're trying to organize it, like I said, from a storytelling point of view. I get the angle of wanting to end on the reveal of the masked man from chapter 1 being here. I think that's an interesting reveal. I just think that the whole 40th chapter is like, like you mentioned, just fucking sucks. Like, it's such a downer. It's the most bleak and depressing thing we've seen in the series so far. And it isn't like, oh, well, we've seen Amo and she's okay now, or she's dealt with it or something. It's like, no, she hasn't. She's still fucked up from this. Like, so it does not feel good.
She has never had a good moment in her life. It recontextualizes that fun fight. And I think it's meant to recontextualize the fight they had. Yeah. But also, I don't know. I don't think you should end it with a child getting sexually abused. It's like it's good writing, but give us one more chapter, or like you said, end it one chapter earlier. And
I think because I read forward one chapter, this is very minor spoilers, the chapter after this would have been the perfect place to end the volume.
Okay, got it. Because no space.
It gives us the rest of her backstory, and it contextualizes more of stuff. It's just better. But we will get to that one next week or possibly 2 weeks. But I mean, that is the end of the volume. There we go. That's the end of the volume. Any overall feelings, Gautam, of this volume, the parts you liked, the parts you didn't like, favorite things, anything like that?
Yeah, so we already mentioned the low point at the end, where it was like, it ended on like a darker downbeat halfway through a flashback. So I won't linger on that too much.
Yeah.
What I liked was I liked Talmsy and Delman getting their time to shine this chapter, because we really didn't know anything about them. So this was necessary for them. At least we got to see their fighting styles. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think the only reason I didn't like this as much as the rest, I liked it a lot. but it was like a beatdown because I don't think Amo was really a villain in that they really could have just talked their way out of the situation. And the fight itself was not very high stakes in like the grand scheme of things. I liked all the emotional stuff though, like reconciling with like Ruto reconciling with his violent tendencies and the talk with Engine at the end. That was all good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think ultimately it's just a slightly weaker volume. But I think the fundamentals are still like so good that I don't think this is like a pattern of low stakes fights or anything I saw as like a red flag for the series.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I did like how creative the kind of put it in quotes the fight in this volume was. So this is the part where I fell off of the series when I was reading it initially. I read the first 40 weeks or whatever. I don't think I ever even made it to Amo's backstory. I think it was during this fight that I fell off. I think this fight really benefited from reading the whole volume at a time. I don't know if you can imagine, but sort of like dealing with like 7 weeks, like almost 2 months basically of Amo sort of like playing with him and getting like a little bit of reveal and a tiny little thing here or there. Was kind of difficult week to week, I think, but it was a lot better in the volume. I think it made a lot of sense. I think it tied all together. It just kind of felt all over the place when I was reading it week to week in the past. But yeah, I agree with you. I like Tamsi and Delman. I think they're both interesting. I think they're a little underutilized, like we mentioned. Amo is interesting. I'm curious to see if she sticks around as like a side character, if they make her a cleaner or.
I think they make her cleaner, right? Because I think
maybe
them just leaving her in the tower is such a dark ending for her character.
Yeah,
and I think they're nice people ultimately. Otherwise, they would have just killed her. So yeah, I think she joins up.
Yeah, but yeah, like you mentioned, this is probably my least favorite volume so far. It felt, I don't know, it's weird. It's an interesting observation I've made. I have called this a action battle shonen in the past. I think it is, if you think about how many big fights we've had, like fights that are kind of multi-chapter between, 2 people or multiple people, there's kind of really only been one big straightforward fight. And that was the Jabber fight that we had in volume 3, I think. This fight was a little more, non-traditional. It definitely kind of does count, I would say, as a fight. It just felt a little bit different and non-traditional. Wasn't kind of the straight fight. So for like a comparison, like I read Kagurabachi this morning, which just hit, I think, 45 chapters, and there have been like 4 or 5 big 1v1 fights that have happened in that series, maybe more. That are sort of multi-chapter, main character or side character versus another guy. So there've been like a lot of fights in 40 or so chapters, and GACHIAKUTA has a lot less fights than I was expecting, I think.
I don't think this is that type of series. It's like Soul Eater in that way, where it's not really about the fights, it's about the characters.
Yeah, which I think I enjoy more. But it is breaking my expectations there, in that just because I hadn't consumed all of it and I didn't remember it fully, I was expecting this to be like, oh yeah, they like travel from place to place, do fights. And I think it moves a lot slower than that. And I think you're right. It is a lot more character focused, which I think one of the reasons I fell off it originally is that is a little bit more difficult to carry you from chapter to chapter when you're moving slowly and doing character work every time. But reading it volume to volume, I think is super excellent so far. So just pointing out that I think it's a little different than I expected. So.
Yeah, and I suppose it's heavier for a reader to have to address characters' internal struggles after, like in every arc, instead of just having some mindless fights. But I think the expectation is set that this is very character forward. It's more about examination of what makes them tick, what upsets them, what they love, kind of a thing, than it is about just brawling.
Yeah.
And I like it personally.
I do too. I think that it shows, I mean, like I've mentioned multiple times in the past, I think it definitely shows there's a writing prowess here that far exceeds a lot of other series similar to GACHIAKUTA.
But I'm curious, right? Like, I don't know how frequently we can keep hitting the same beats of Rudo's internal struggles of like having rage issues,
feeling like trash internally, yeah.
Because we kind of have that already established. So I think going forward, I do want to see his internal struggles, but I guess I don't know how often we can continue with the process, right?
No, I agree with you. I think we're sort of coming up on next volume will basically encompass the first full year publication of GACHIAKUTA. And I think kind of next volume and after that, I feel like Rudo is a fully fleshed out character. Like, I don't necessarily need him to have more facets or more information on what drives him, because I think I know. What I'm looking for going forward in Rudo is I would like to see the actual character growth. I would like to see him try to deal with those things. Now, he can try and fail. I think that that's totally fine. But
yeah, because I think that's well said.
Yeah.
Because he's like, up till now, it's all reconciling with his past.
Yeah, it's all realizing what's wrong with himself and being like, yeah.
And I think his internal character struggle going forward should be reconciling with new information and how it impacts him.
Mm-hmm.
And like what he understands about his own character versus the new information he receives that makes him question it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how it should work, instead of more past reconciliation kind of thing.
And I think the series is set up to do that in a very interesting way, because I think that especially with his dad and the scars on his hands and this darkness inside him and this masked character, I think that most of his sort of emotional issues that we want to see character growth with are tied also to the plot and his history. So I think that as we get more information about the mysteries and the plot, that should drive Rudo's character growth. That is how I am seeing this working going forward, and I hope that it works out like that.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
I want to see him make some friends. Like, I don't think he has any friends. He just has colleagues.
Yeah, not yet. I don't think we've quite reached the sort of like, I protect him because he's my friends. But I do think, like many manga, many action battle shonen, I think there is a found family aspect to this that is planted and will be growing in the future.
Oh, for sure. Like, Engine already had like a dad talk with him, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I meant like friends his age, because they're all older than him.
I think Zanka and Rio. I think Zanka and Rio are around his age. Rio, especially Rio and Amo, I think are near his age. So
I feel like they're like 18 or 19, and he's like 14, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have no idea what their ages are. So
yeah, I'm not sure. But I think we'll see.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else, Gautam? Anything else about Volume 5 GACHIAKUTA we want to chat about?
No. Looking forward to Volume 6. I've been enjoying the ride so far. And it would be nice to get to Volume 6, so the last chapter wasn't like a little girl getting molested.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah, no, I am curious because I have not, this is all new grounds to me. As I had mentioned, I had read this previously and I got to this Amo fight. I had not read past it. So, I even kind of remembered the Amo fight a little bit. But this stuff is all new for me. So now I don't know what to expect. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it.
Cool. I think that's it then. Hey, thank you again, everyone, for listening or watching. Next week will be Volume 6, or we might be taking a break. We'll have to see there. Be sure to check out the Patreon if you want to support us. Maybe you'll get some more book clubs if you do. Check out Twitter to see more thoughts from me. If you are a weekly manga reader of stuff like Shonen Jump or Weekly Shonen Magazine, which publishes GACHIAKUTA, or any others, go check out the Weekly Manga Podcast. That's on this channel. And I think that's it for this episode of the GACHIAKUTA Book Club Rethrow. So adios, everybody.
Goodbye.
And don't forget to read more manga.